It is the single best, worst feeling you'll ever have in your life.
It's just like,
Hooked on heroin.
I went from being a very honest and loyal person
Luring young and old.
to a completely horrible, dishonest person.
Losing everything for the elusive high.
We have a heroin epidemic in the state.
Now, politicians and police,
This is a judge who is on your side.
courts and counselors come together to try to get answers.
If I'm in a position where I can do something to relieve that, you better believe I'm going to do it.
Tonight's Your Voice, Your Future Town Hall Hooked on Heroin begins now.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us for the Your Voice, Your Future, ABC 6 on Your Side Town Hall, Hooked on Heroin. I'm Bob Kendrick.
and I'm Yolanda Harris. All month long, we've been looking at the problem of heroin in our community.
Now, we've learned that the drug does not discriminate. It has been dominating police departments, the courts, the healthcare system, so many other facets of our lives, and of course, the direct lives of our family and friends. So tonight we've gathered a live audience here, and you as well, to talk about solutions.
And we're here to answer your questions and your concerns. You can actually take part in this. You can send us questions through our social media on Twitter and use the hashtag #YourVoiceYourFuture. And those in the audience can also ask us questions as well using that same hashtag. Right now, joining us tonight is the moderator of this evening's event and host of Behind the Headlines, Mr. Mark Hyman.
Thank you. Big H, hell dust, horse, smack. To think that something with such simple names combined with a syringe, something usually thought it was delivering good, can actually create a deadly concoction. Good evening, I'm Mark Hyman. You know, heroin knows no age or race, has no income boundary. It's an indiscriminate killer. So we've assembled our live audience tonight to ask some really tough questions of our panel of experts. And we've assembled a terrific panel, so let's go ahead and meet them. Joining us this evening is Orman Hill. He's a member of the Governor's Cabinet Opiate Task Force. Andrea Boxell. She's a specialty coordinator with the Franklin County Court. Paul Schoonover. Sam Quirones. He's a journalist and author who is an expert with the Mexican drug trade. And Paul Schoonover. He lost his 21-year-old son, Matt, to a heroin overdose. Now, our panelists are here in their personal capacities. The views they represent are their own, unless they tell us otherwise. Additional information on them can be found on our website, abc6onyourside.com. Now, we mentioned a moment ago we have a live audience here, anxious to answer your questions. And as Yolanda mentioned, we will want to hear from you at home as well. A question we ask live on air might be yours. Now, not only do we have lots of information we make available tonight, but we also have some action you can take, because throughout this evening, we're manning a phone bank with drug counselors who are ready to speak to families, friends, and addicts to get your questions answered. Certainly dial the number 614-481-6848 to get your assistance from the drug counselors. Bob?
Thanks, Mark. The problem in Ohio is not just Ohio's problem. It stretches from Washington to Albany, heroin. And it is such a problem here in central Ohio and in our state due largely because of our logistics benefits, make us such a wonderful spot for goods and services to travel through the country. But of course, it's also made it a hub for heroin trafficking as well. So Central Ohio has that unique feature to it. But it is such a problem throughout the nation and here in Ohio that the governor, John Kasich, has formed an opiates action team, a task force to tackle the problem head on. And we're very pleased tonight to introduce the governor of Ohio, Mr. John Kasich, who's been kind enough to join us and speak with you about the problem. Governor, thank you.
Well, Bob, I want to thank you. I want to thank Channel 6 and Fox for what is an unprecedented program. I also want to thank Chris Van Oker for his laser-like attention to this issue. Ladies and gentlemen who are watching, do not turn this channel off, please. Don't turn this show off, please. It could help you to save somebody's life. We have been focused on this issue even before I was inaugurated as governor. We've worked with Mike DeWine, our great Attorney General. And we've worked with the Highway Patrol, with local law enforcement. We've done everything we can to begin to engage in a meaningful way in this battle. We've locked up drug traffickers. We have shut down pill mills where they dispense too many prescription drugs that ultimately can lead to a heroin addiction, a heroin overdose, and death. We have restricted the ability of doctors without proper protocols to be able to write prescriptions in massive amounts so that we can get a handle on this. And at the same time, we have also have the resources to begin to treat those who are addicted. And anybody who may be watching this show tonight, if you have an addiction, don't run from it. Don't throw your life away. We are here to help you. We are here with Tracy Plouk, our Director of Mental Health and Drug Addiction. Orman Hall runs the Governor's Opiate Task Force. If you have a problem, we will give you the number and the email where you can go, where we can begin to rehab you. But ladies and gentlemen, shutting down the drug trafficking is not enough. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to talk to our children with one simple and clear message. Don't do drugs. God has a purpose for your life. The Lord created you to do things, to help heal this earth. And when you do drugs, you are going to be able to extinguish what your purpose really is. Paul Schoonover, he's a hero to me. His son went to school at the same school where my 14-year-old daughters currently go. It's the last place you would ever think you would see somebody connected to heroin once he graduated from that school. Paul's doing everything he can to sell the message. We are in the schools today. You can go to starttalking.com, in our website in Ohio, and this is a massive program across the state of Ohio to warn our kids about drugs. Now, it's not just enough to tell them don't do it. We have to give them the confidence to be able to say no. And there are many ways in which we can all, as a community, we can help. Now, you know, I think Bob said it very well. This heroin epidemic, this drug abuse in our culture, is not in somebody else's neighborhood. It's right next door. And it could be in your house. We are standing up and fighting as a state. And you know what? We're making gains. We're making significant gains on stopping the trafficking, on rehabbing people, and beginning to tell our precious young people that you have a life and a purpose, and you can help make a difference in the way this earth spins and the way this world works. I want to thank again Channel 6 and Fox for putting this show on. You're going to learn a lot tonight from Orman Hall and the other panelists, but you're going to learn a lot from Paul Schoonover and his wife, who are waging a battle, a personal battle in memory of their 21-year-old son who died of a heroin overdose. They don't want it to happen to anybody else. Don't turn this off. This could be the key to saving your niece, your nephew, your spouse, or your grandchildren. Watch the show, learn, and join the fight. Thanks for giving me an opportunity to speak, Bob. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor, and thanks for keeping your eyes so firmly on the ball here. And that's going to need to be the case not only at the state level, but at the federal level. And when this epidemic is beaten, and we hope that's inevitable, there's going to be probably another one right behind it. We just have to keep our eyes focused all the way on it. And I hear that a lot from all levels of government. I want to quickly toss it over here to Chris Vanoker, who's in our polling center here tonight. Chris, have some interactive time now for the audience. Chris?
Thanks, Bob. This is just for the people in the audience. However, everyone watching will be able to see the results. If you can get out the clicker, and you're going to get tired of me saying this. This is our first question. As far as you know, have any of your friends or family tried or been addicted to heroin? You can click any of these that apply. You can do more than one. And if I can get you to vote now. And we're at about nearly 80 people responding. Let's go ahead and tally the votes if we can. 20% of you said one, have tried. 72% have said addicted. 16% said neither. And 6% said not sure. Mark, those are some interesting numbers.
They are, absolutely. And that actually, I want to follow up with something that the governor had mentioned. He talked about the pill mills here in Oregon, or rather here in Ohio. HB 93 was passed and enacted 3 years ago. And what we've seen is that the cheaper drugs, if you will, have gone away. And so, Sam, I want to kind of put it to you. Do you have any sense of how we make progress in some areas, reducing cocaine and crack and the pill mills, if you will, and then it leads for an opening for a cheap alternative like, and a very deadly alternative like heroin? How do we tackle those problems?
Wow. Okay. I mean, I think one of the reasons I've spent a lot of time in Ohio writing the book that I've just finished, by the way.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's been a while. Is because in Ohio, you all were the kind of the ground zero for this opiate problem. And that was due to a few things that took place. I think the pill mill issue has been discussed at some length. Spent a lot of time down in Portsmouth, where they seem to have had more pill mills than any place in America. And then by pure coincidence, I believe, you were visited by the current Mexican traffickers who are now all over the United States, but brought their heroin east of the Mississippi River for the first time. Black tar heroin came east of the Mississippi River for the first time in 1998 and came here first. And you had that kind of confluence of events, and I think purely, by luck and chance, really, more than anything else. One of the reasons, though, that so that's why I spent a lot of time in the state. But one of the reasons I came back is because I think it seems to me that there are several things that the state is doing right, and one of them is that the state seems to be talking about this. I've been to other states, and the reason that sounds strange, right? I mean, why wouldn't you talk about it? Well, the truth is, in many other states, there simply is no discussion along these lines. And why is talking about this topic so important? I was a crime reporter in the late 80s, early 90s during the crack years in California. And crack forced you to discuss it because the violence was very public. It was, I covered drive-by shootings constantly, almost every week, carjackings. The crack epidemic created public violence and therefore created public debate, public ire, budgets, and a variety of other things that led to eventually crack really being a kind of a minor drug today, I think. I know in some parts it's still an important drug, but by and large it's clearly not the problem that it was 15, 20 years ago. And that is because, sadly, the violence associated with it created a public outrage. And that's been largely absent in most of the country with regard to this topic. Why is that? Because this drug is the most selfish, the most private, the most individual drug, where you retreat to your bedroom, your private bedroom, you retreat to your car or to your tent under the overpass by the time you've been addicted to heroin for a while. There is not a lot of there's not a lot of violence. There's almost no violence, truthfully, associated with this. At the same time, you have a lot of families who've lost people who would be the people that the media, believe me, I'm a reporter, I've been 27 years a reporter. You're looking for parents to come forward and tell their stories. Many parents have not. And so therefore, there's a silence. There's a silence until I began writing this book about a year ago. And for 9 months, people would look at me and go, "Why would you be writing about heroin? What's the problem?" Then Philip Seymour Hoffman died, and I don't get those looks anymore. Meanwhile, though, I began to focus on the families who were making some noise about this, because those folks are essential. You do not have associated with this the violence that would create the kind of public outrage. That's why I got to know the Schoonovers and several other parents down in Portsmouth, Ohio, in other parts of the country as well. And probably the first step is kind of what is already happening here in the state, and that is just acknowledging it, but really kind of making it the issue that it needs to be, because there is no violence associated with it, and the violence will not create that for you in this case.